My name is Luke Smith. I'm the program manager at Engineers Without Borders UK. I'm a mechanical engineer by education, and I've worked in the water sector for a number of years. So really appreciated some of those examples. Rod's brought me back some memories of time in industry. And as Catherine mentioned, today I'm going to be speaking about globally responsible engineering, having a bit of an industry perspective in this. Because we've heard about this need for change, this need for disruptive change in education to be able to meet the needs of today and tomorrow. And the role that educators play, as many of you on the call are aware, has tremendous potential for positive impact at scale, which is so incredibly needed. And this is entwined with what's required of industry. And it's a complex challenge that requires a solution that understands and utilizes the interrelated nature of all that's going to be spoken about today and probably tomorrow as well. Because we urgently need to address the balance the needs of all people and our planet. And together we'll be able to put global responsibility at the heart of engineering to ensure a safe and just future for all. And at present, our organisation, Engineers Without Borders UK, delivers the only scaled educational initiative that focuses on global responsible engineering. This is the Engineering People Design Challenge, which I'll touch on in a few minutes into this talk. But we also work with industry professionals, engineering students and academics across the globe under the same mission to put global responsibility at the heart of engineering. I want to touch on what I'll be talking about today. And in focus, I want to answer these questions. And they're sort of the key questions to ask in relation to global responsible engineering, which is, why is it so critical just now? What is it that needs to change? And how can we change it? And what can you do within your institutions or your accreditation institution as well? And we want to ensure that this talk, like there's a lot of talks like this and a lot of opportunities to speak on these places, but we want to ensure that something which is action driven. So we're coming out of here with a clear plan as well. But before we get into that, I want to take a second just to reflect on why it is that we're here at this academic conference and what we have in the front of our minds when we're thinking about our plans and our approaches and our influence. University is where we create and direct the talent of the future. So what we teach today, how you engage people, that will influence what gets done tomorrow. And tomorrow is filled with challenges that are much greater than we've ever known. And through my own education, actually, and into my career, I'd say I became relatively proficient in producing what was expected within a sort of limited framing of Newtonian cause and effect problem solution space. But also through that journey, I became quite frustrated with that exclusive focus on technical solutions only and the lack of discussion or action around like holistic impact. And that's why I am here, and I'm sure a lot of you are here today, is to think about how universities will create and direct engineers of the future to be able to tackle global challenges. And engineering has always played a really crucial role in human development and the impact that we have on the planet. It potentially emblemizes like a core human characteristic, like adaptability. We've adapted to new natural and new social environments through physical, digital, biological, and social means to meet our needs and our wants. And engineering has given us water systems, shelter, video games, space travel, artificial intelligence, skyscrapers, the internet, homes, weapons, public spaces, and it's enabled, as we were speaking about in the break, a population of 8 billion people. But all of this is at a cost. Engineering has consequences. We heard Catherine mentioning at the head of this talk this morning about the impact of the building and construction space, or sector rather. And that sector alone accounts for 38% of all energy-related CO2 emissions. We're responsible for degenerating our ecological systems. When we think about the period that we're in just now, the discussion that's going on around us all over the globe, there is great momentum towards tackling this, the UN Sustainable Development Goals in this decade of action. But a challenge if we're there early enough or if we're prepared enough. And I'd like to pose a question to you all. So if you're happy to respond into the chat. The question is, what percentage of employers think that their workforce has the skills needed to implement a sustainability strategy? So if you're happy to put in a few guesses into the chat there on what percentage of employers think that their workforce has the skills needed to implement a sustainability strategy. I'd be intrigued to see what this cohort thinks. 10%, 16, 5%, 30%. So I'm slightly surprised by how low these numbers are that are coming through. 25%, 15%. The answer is only 7%. This is really quite scary, and some of you are quite accurate in your guesses, but I find that quite terrifying at the same time. I challenge you maybe on the call as well to think if you know your own institutional sustainability strategies and how maybe you're thinking about reaching that goal with your organization. And as an academic, we can link the work that we're doing to the sustainability strategy of your universities. Be attacking the SDGs while educating on them, being purposeful in how and what you teach. Just reflecting on where we are here today. So we sort of spoke that universities are where we create the engineers of the future, and the engineering sector has this irrefutable impact on people and planet, both positive and negative. But the sector is unprepared or unequipped to take on the challenges of the future. So we need a new approach if we're going to create change, because it's widely accepted that the way we currently live on this planet is not sustainable, nor is it equitable. Therefore, how we've been doing this needs to change if we want planet Earth and the human species to thrive into the future. So I would like to offer a new approach encapsulated in this video.
It is in a perilous position. We have pushed our resources to the limit. Yet, millions still don't have their basic human rights met, and there is vast inequality. Engineering has played an essential role in how civilization has evolved, but it has also played a significant role in leading us to the point of crisis. It continues to rely on unsustainable methods and materials and produces huge amounts of waste. The building and construction sector alone is responsible for 38% of global emissions. We are now on the brink of climate and biodiversity disaster. We urgently need to balance the needs of all people with the needs of our planet. The engineering community is uniquely placed to address these challenges and can do so if we act urgently. We must put global responsibility at the heart of engineering. By 2030, Engineers Without Borders UK will build a movement of over 500,000 people powerful enough to radically transform the culture of engineering. We will inspire, encouraging a lifelong, meaningful commitment to globally responsible engineering. We will upskill, equipping the engineering community with the skills and expertise to be globally responsible. We will drive change, collaborating with organizations to enable globally responsible engineering to become mainstream. Together, we will reach the tipping point that puts global responsibility at the heart of engineering, ensuring a safe and just future for all. Join the Engineers Without Borders UK movement today.
So we've discussed why this is so critical now and why this community is such a vital part of it and the opportunities we have as a global community as well. So let's go into what needs to change. Like, what do you want the students of the future to be like? To be ready for a vocational job, to be able to meet the skills gap, prepared to tackle these global challenges, to be critical thinkers and challengers of the status quo. Well, this community has that immense possibility for scale of impact in this exact space, but we should start by thinking about the essence of it, like the identity. And I think engineering education and the perception of engineering could maybe be summarized in this sentence: problem solvers. That's probably true for their educational experience. They're given and then solve problems, but we know that's not true after university. They impact how we live. And that's why we're having this conversation today. The world is fast evolving, and engineering has played a crucial part in that. And we've spoken about the being positive and negative aspects, but looking at these global challenges ahead of us, the consequences of engineering, they're incredibly negative if unchecked. So what do we need to change and what do we need to focus on? Well, skills and knowledge. So I'm not just referring to vocational training here, and so there's a lot of new and existing institutions that are very well prepared to adapt to that skills space. But also thinking about that fact we just said, that only 7% of engineering companies in the UK have that sustainability strategy that they feel they're equipped to deliver. We need to be addressing how we're communicating and educating on sustainable development goals for people to understand that the sort of interrelated nature of the consequences of design and action. That kind of feeds onto this next point. We need a fundamental shift in approach, and this is needed to be able to take on these new challenges. We cannot simply continue to go through the same approaches and expect different outcomes. We need to be looking at multi and interdisciplinary teaching. Rod spoke of this morning. We had this in the Q&A, because the sector currently is so siloed, and that starts in education. And the education strategy for complex domains like a climate crisis, it needs to involve the application of design or project-based learning projects, along with a variation of in-curriculum structure and pedagogy. And lastly, we need a fundamental shift in mindset, how people are thinking about their role in engineering and society. And these are not exclusive elements that we can just focus on and tackle. This is a holistic solution for a complex challenge. And this is where we need to be looking at globally responsible engineering. Globally responsible engineering is about refocusing the engineering mindset and skill set, ensuring that engineering serves people and planet better than ever before. So by deeply embedding social and environmental impact into every single decision and focusing on the challenges that really matter to our future survival, then the more of us that adopt this approach, the more likely we'll be able to make it through these challenges. Now, our strategy was launched in May 21, and it sets out 4 key principles for globally responsible engineering. And these are responsible, to meet the needs of everyone within the limits of our planet. And this really should be at the heart of what engineering is. Purposeful, to ensure that all impacts of engineering from our projects or products' inception to the end of its life are considered, and that this should be at a global and a local scale for people and planet. Inclusive, to ensure that a diverse range of viewpoints and knowledge are included and respected in the engineering process. And regenerative, to actively restore and regenerate ecological systems rather than just reducing impact. Now, these are crucial in ensuring that we have a safe and just future for all. We want these principles to be adopted across the engineering community and embedded into the culture of how engineering is taught and how it's practiced. Now, how does this work in principle? You might be sort of asking a little bit. Well, you could look to examples like the Engineering for People Design Challenge as an example of how we can build skill and knowledge in the face of climate crisis and offer a space to nurture that mindset, which also adopts new approaches in delivery. Now, this is an in-curriculum design challenge that reaches 1 in 5 undergraduates across the UK and 10,000 students annually globally. It uses a project-based learning approach, which puts the student at the heart of their own learning and put them right in control of their own learning. And that means rather than being told exactly what the task is or what the brief is, the students research a community or a context and identify what is a key challenge that they think is being experienced and develop an appropriate solution for that context. So defining the problem and developing the solution. And we heard of this in the Q&A as well, from Will's talk rather, where we need students who are going to be challenging briefs that are brought to them to get to the true problem statement that underneath this, underlying what the client might be projecting as their needed brief. And academics, as we're also discussing in the Q&A in that space there, academics don't have to be the subject matter expert. They shouldn't be. They're facilitators of that student journey. And this is a huge step in being able to challenge what a true problem statement is rather than just accepting that process. And this also has a host of great benefits for academics who are engaged in the program, and I'll touch on that in just a second, but I'll play this video which offers a quick introduction to the design challenge in more detail. And this challenge it's been delivered for 10 years now, with over 50,000 students and 10,000 annually having had the opportunity to gain an understanding of their role as an engineer in society, be able to consider the consequences of design decision, both on a local and a global scale, learn how engineering underpins daily life, learn how to place people at the heart of designs, develop their engineering skills, as long as a host of critical skills in terms of communication and teamwork as well. And this has been mapped against frameworks like AHEP4 and that we've sort of been touching on this morning as well. But I wanted to share with you a bit more about how this design challenge has an impact on an institution or academics. So this, rather than just the student experience. So this is a testimony from Jen Roberts, who's an academic who's delivering the design challenge at Strathclyde University, speaking about how it aids academics in this space. She says, for those new to project-based teaching approaches by working with Engineers Without Borders UK, you are scaffolded by a range of incredible resources, from the design brief and online information resources to the academic community that you join. This is invaluable, particularly for those early career academics learning to navigate their new roles. Engineers Without Borders not only provides the climbing frame and encouragement, but they also offer tips and tricks and encourage reflection through their training programs, and through linking with the academic network. This all provides safe and supported space to enable academics to develop their own skills as well as support the student learning. The academic still needs to take leadership in how the program is framed, structured, and delivered, and so there's still plenty of scope for individuals' ownership of the course that you deliver, and you'll also be able to add your own flavors to the class, of course. But since the bulk of the heavy lifting's being done by Engineers Without Borders UK, you have a bit more headspace to think about those aspects and develop them year on year. So this structure like this, they offer that grounding to be able to develop into this new pedagogy or this new space. But what can you do in this space? Well, as an educator, you could look to run this design challenge at your university, or indeed our Efficiency for Access design challenge, which challenges master's students to tackle energy access through improving DC appliances to bring that benefit to a wider community. And in doing so, you'd be joining this international network of educators across the world doing the same thing, but with different approaches, and offering peer-to-peer support through our training structures, as well as throughout the year, reaching out to our community. But you could also support one of our student chapters, and these are student society groups that organize and run activities, talks, workshops, and projects at university. So that's self-led development opportunities. Or perhaps you want to be part of this global conversation. Engineers Without Borders International and Engineers Without Borders organizations from Australia, Brazil, Canada, India, the Netherlands, Philippines, the UK, and the USA are all calling for 3 core competencies to be universally incorporated into the international benchmarks for what it means to be accredited and what professional competencies we value most. As well as this, you could be engaging in our shared learning, free virtual learning program, sharing this with students where they can get an understanding of what it's like to work in the sector and challenge themselves to develop in line with some of these competencies that we spoke about, or these principles that we've spoken about. And lastly, if there's one thing I can ask you to do today, it's to join this movement. Because now more than ever, we need to bring people to work creatively together to ensure that university really is where we create that talent of the future and where people can reinvent our approach. And in doing so, change the direction or trajectory that we're heading in. Lastly, for this last slide, I'd just like to summarize a little bit, because as we stated at the start, this space, the university landscape, this is where we create talent of the future. And where we teach today and how we teach today will influence what gets done tomorrow. So there's this huge opportunity to change the focus on the educational experience of those who are directed towards careers in engineering. But it requires that dated skills and knowledge that we've heard about, a fundamental shift in our approach and a fundamental shift in our mindsets. And by working with project-based learning design challenges like ours, there's an accessible framework for universities to be able to tackle complexities like climate change. And those who look after accreditation and our educators, they're key in being able to tackle these challenges and influencing the engineering community. What we'd like to do today is invite you to join our movement and our strategy in our 10-year strategy. I'd like to just say thank you for having us to speak today, and to the iStruct for inviting us along. And thank you.